Put your headphones on. Put your headphones on. We're going to teach your son how to make objections, right? I missed you guys yesterday. Thank you for hanging out with Candace in the morning. You guys are doing super well. Every time I look at the chat, somebody else is taking a listing or closing something. So congratulations. We have a special guest today that I just want to recognize. This is John Sorrano. He's in my upper left-hand corner. I don't know if he's in everyone's upper left-hand corner, but he's in mine. So John, I want to, we actually have spent a little bit of time together, but I don't know a whole lot about your background and your route to real estate and your route to kind of being the team lead or owner. I'm not sure what your official title is with the Atlanta Property Professionals, but tell us a little bit about yourself if you don't mind.
Sure, absolutely. So I got my real estate license a long time ago, back in the late 80s, and I did one transaction with it. I bought my own personal home, and I enjoyed the journey of learning about real estate. And then I became an investor after that. I invested in a lot of real estate, but during that whole time, I worked for a big corporate company called Kellogg Company. If you've heard, you've probably heard of it, Tony the Tiger. And I worked there for 30 years, and I was a sales manager and a trainer, and I did a lot of different jobs around that. And about 6 years ago, I lost that job. There was a downsizing in the company, and 2,000 people were let go overnight. And so I was exactly 50 years old when that happened. And when I started looking around being 50, saying, okay, I don't want to let that happen again in corporate America. And it's probably a lot like with you guys out there. You say, hey, I want to get out of the corporate rat race, and I want to try to do something different. And I could tell you what happened at that moment was I was going to buy some kind of a franchise, start some kind of a company, and start a business. And a friend of mine introduced me to said, hey, why don't you become a real estate agent? And I said, well, that's not a business. That's that's something different. I didn't, even though I was, aware of what real estate agents did, and I had bought several homes and worked with agents, and I was an investor myself, I never looked at real estate as a business. And my life-changing moment was reading MREA, Million Dollar Real Estate Agent. And I'm sure that Bill and Michelle tell you to read that book all the time, and you probably study it all the time. But that book is the blue for me. Just said, oh, real estate is a business, and not only is it a business, but I have the blueprint on how to run a business right here. Like somebody just said, here's how you do it, and here's how you're successful, and here's the proof on how you become successful, because the people in the book that were all being interviewed for how they became successful were in there. So 6 years ago, I got my license, and I said, I'm going to start a real estate business. And instead of sinking $500,000 into some kind of franchise for relatively low investment, I became a real estate agent. And that's how it all started, right? So along the way, I just was a student of following everything people told me to do. So, and what they told me to do over and over again was just exactly what's in that blueprint. And I look back over the past 6 years of becoming an individual agent, and then becoming a duo, a team, two of us together, and then expanding that into a team, and then restarting with this team a year ago. I became the team leader of the Atlanta Property Professionals about a year ago. And so the team it's a really successful team. So I'm really happy where we took it. But the whole journey is all about just following the blueprint. And I'll just close with this. I used to sit on Zoom calls like this. Well, not exactly Zoom calls. We didn't do much Zooming 6 years ago, but but sit in team meetings and sit in all kinds of trainings. And there'd be somebody who was like me, 6 years ahead of me, who was having success. And I would just try to write down what their secret was. And I was just thinking that they just weren't telling me their secret. And I would just try to go to them after the meeting. Okay, I know you just said to do that, but how do you really do it? And what's your secret? And I was just trying to just find out what the secret sauce was. And after 6 years, I could tell you there's no secret. It's exactly what Bill and Candace tell you to do every day, and Michelle tell you to do every day. It's exactly what's in MREA. It's all there. So just keep repeating what's in there. There is no secret.
So let's give them a tiny bit more than that, John. In your words, what is the secret? Pretend like no one has ever been in real estate before. They're getting into the business. They're brand new. What is the secret?
It's spending that time lead genning every day. And it's an everyday chore. And it could be as simple as door knocking, or calling in your sphere, or calling on a FISBO. It's all those things. It's just the secret is just being consistent, finding what you like to do for lead gen, and doing it every day.
And what do you like to do for lead gen?
So I'm in a unique position where I like to create the lead gen activities and build on the lead gen activities for my team. But personally, what I like to do is just talk to people on the phone and just calling the people I know. So I don't even have to worry about calling strangers. It's just really it's my database that I started with 100 people, which is my sphere is only really grown to about 150 to 200 people. It's not that big. This is my sphere of people that I know. Now, added to that, obviously, is my past sales and just my database of just like leads that have come in. But my core that I know sustain my business, and I just talk to them and write them notes, and that's my lead gen activity every day. Is I have my DDD2 out. It's right up here on my board, and I know who I have to call today. And I just either call them if they don't pick up the phone, send them a text, and then I sit here and I write them a handwritten note and send them a note. And that's my 1 hour of pleasure actually every day of sitting here and doing that. Yeah.
How many notes would you say you write a week?
It's 20 a week. Yeah. A minimum of 20 a week. Yeah.
So that sounds like it's a standard in your business, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the other standards in your business?
I would say just making sure you're out and doing open houses for us. We get a lot of leads from open houses. So on our team, if you have to commit to doing at least 2 to 3 open houses a month, that's a big standard for us. And then lastly, it's just calling your sphere, calling your database, calling the people you know, right? And then beyond that, for us, it's just when we get a lead that we're just we pick up a lead and we answer them quickly, and we put them on a drip campaign and we follow up relentlessly.
Got it. All right, I got one more question, and then I'm going to give you the floor. When you say you're calling the people you know, I know we all have script books, and we can all kind of watch videos and try to internalize the questions. But can you give us a couple of the topics that you generally? What are your go-to questions, or what are your go-to pieces of value that you'll share with the people that continue those relationships?
So what normally will happen is it's just me calling, "Hey Bill, it's John, how you been?" And we'll just start a conversation just like we'd start any other conversation with anybody you know. And I can tell you that it's not hard, because at some point they're going to ask you, "What's going on with you?"
Right.
And then you could tell your story, whatever you want to relay. And then
let's role play that for a second.
Go ahead. That's great.
Hey John, what's new with you?
Well, the family's doing great, and our business is growing really tremendously. I've just been really happy over the past week, because I have a new agent on the team, and they got their first closing, and it's been really exciting. And,
so tell me more about that. Is the market hot right now?
Yeah. So it is hot, but I mean, hot is a big question. Like, what does it mean to be hot, right? So have you guys been thinking about selling? You selling your house? I'm gonna put a sign in your yard, Bill. Okay.
Yeah, we're thinking about depends on the values. What should I know, John?
Yeah. Well, I could tell you right now. Where are you moving to first? Let's talk about that.
Okay, cool. So you went straight for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But when people see John Sorrano calling on their caller ID, what do you think they're expecting? They're expecting like a nice, friendly conversation where they get to talk about themselves and their family a bit, right?
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, that's why I think that's why they'll pick the phone up, right? So I think there is some scripting around just calling and just start talking real estate. But I let that conversation naturally flow into real estate, and they always ask. And no matter where I go, I mean, I went to a school event this weekend with my kids, and this will happen to you too. And this will happen by you just doing your 36 touch. This naturally will happen, where in the beginning, nobody will know you're a real estate agent. And then a year later, people walk up to you and say, I hate to bother you, but can I ask you a question about real estate? And you just have to pretend like you're like, well, it's okay. I'll ask you, you could ask me this one time. But of course, you're elated inside, somebody walks up and asks you about real estate. I could tell you just one quick thing before we talk about objection handling, Bill, that I'll always ask people this when they ask me, how's the market? Right. If I'm more in that conversation, I'll say, hey, why do you ask?
Right? Well, my daughter just moved out of the house. She was my last, youngest child. And, this house is kind of big. I don't know if this isn't, we don't need to be in this school district anymore. That's kind of just what's on our mind.
Yeah. And so that will naturally come up, because when you ask why do you ask, instead of just because you stay playing this game of footsie back and forth of somebody asking you how the market is, you just go right in and say, why do you ask? Because you want to help them. You're basically helping them get to the point.
Yes.
Right. Because sometimes again, believe it or not, I know it seems weird, but when sometimes your friends call or you see them and they don't want to bother you about asking about work because they feel like there's like a separation between, but we're different. We're working all the time. We're always working. But and then I think my friends also realize that, and the people in my sphere know that I want to serve them. I don't want to just, I don't see them as a number. Yep. And I want to serve them. So, and that's why it's important to always start that conversation about really just understanding who they are and being genuine about it, because I really care about who they are.
I love that. All right. I want to, you mentioned one thing, which is particularly relevant to this morning. Guess what I got when I walked into my office today? I got a handwritten note.
There you go.
Michelle, put your face on. Look, I got a handwritten note. I got to tell you, it doesn't happen very often.
No.
But I've got a huge smile on my face, and it'll probably stay on my face all day long because Michelle was kind enough to write me a note. Right? We've spent a little time together this week, and she expressed her gratitude for that, and I think that is amazing. And it's just the small little things, guys, to separate yourself from the rest of the world, right? Particularly the real estate community. So, congratulations to you, Michelle. What a nice touch. Thank you.
Yeah, and I can tell you sometimes when I write notes, I'll get notes back the following week. Thank you for the thank you. Yeah, because it's so odd that people feel compelled to thank you because they're so excited about getting a note.
Michelle, can you want to speak for 2 seconds on how you've used notes in your business?
I do. I mean, John is speaking my language this morning, and he's so right about, especially now with apps and Zillow and Facebook feed, talking to your clients all the time, talking to your sphere all the time, dangling the carrot. What about this? What about that? Your clients, your friends are curious about things, and they are not going to call you because they're thinking, I'm just kind of curious. I'm not going to call Michelle. She's busy. I'm not going to call her and ask her to go show me this place because I'm not really looking. I'm just curious. But that over time, then all of a sudden it's like, well, Zillow will just go show it to me and I don't give a crap about them. So I'll just let them do it. And then it inches away. So making those calls and just coming from contribution is everything. So with notes, anytime I meet someone, they instantly get a note. And how I'm doing that is, I'm having conversation. I'm asking a lot of questions. Where do you live? How long have you lived there? But it's conversation. It's, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I'm a real estate agent. Where do you live? Okay. And I'm remembering their last name and I'm remembering where they said they live. And then I'm getting my address, but you can do it too. You look it up and it says, hey, just wanted to make sure you had my contact. And should you ever have questions about the real estate market, count on me. If you ever need a painter, a plumber, a babysitter, a dog sitter, a gutter cleaner, I don't want you to be left out there to the wild to just find anybody. I've got all the vetted guys. You call me. Take care. That's it. I didn't say call me if you want to sell. and people love it. And then you to cement them. Then you follow up with something else and something else and something else. And they just love it. It feels weird at first, but they love it.
Yeah, that is so awesome. Thank you for sharing, Michelle, and thank you for
Thanks for letting me.
Okay, John. We can go in a ton of different directions. I'm happy to be a partner in any way if you'd like to, if you need a role play partner. But tell us a little bit about why this topic. When we asked you to join us, why did you pick this topic, and kind of give us an overview about how you've kind of incorporated handling objections into your business.
I see Candace is ready to put her hand up. She's like, let me talk. So
by the way, let's recognize Candace for all of her hard work. And every time that we have a guest here, it's generally Candace that set it up. So thank you.
Yeah, I overheard a conversation Candace was having in the hallway with someone. Who are you talking? Was somebody, are they on the call too, Candace?
No, I was talking with Clea, and she was asking for objection handling around the commission, and I used the tried and true one, and John said, I have to interrupt because that doesn't work. I need to give you the updated script. So I was like, hey, you just got yourself a spot on PC.
Yeah, you talk too much, and we're going to ask you to come in.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. So the tried and true one, the first one I learned was when somebody asks you about your commission, right? And we generally talk about when we're on a listing appointment that our commission is 3%, and we pay the co-oping agent 3%. So together that would be at 6% of the total price of the sale. And and if they kind of push back on why it's 3%, can you cut that? And the old tried and true one was like, you have one of those percentage points of my 3, one third goes to the broker, 1/3 goes to the tax man, and 1/3 comes to me. So where, and then the part that comes to me, I do all my marketing out of for your home, and I'm going to use that to sell your home. And so the first 2/3 I can't cut. So for an agent that's got that last little piece that you've talked to that said they want to cut one of those pieces off, that they're not going to cut their profit off. So they're going to take it out of your marketing, right? Because they have to feed their family, right? So that was the tried and true one that worked, I think, for a little while. But I don't think anybody cares about that anymore. They don't care about you not being able to feed your family. And I think it's because, and I think Candace, respectfully, I think it's because right now what we're seeing in the market is we've got Zillow selling houses and Open Door selling houses, and then Redfin is out there, Duffy is out, like all these cut rate people, and there's quite frankly some big real estate brokerages that just said, okay, we'll do it for 2%, right? And the reason, Candace, it just sparked in my mind because just that week I went on a listing appointment and I had somebody saying, well, okay, we're going to list with Redfin. They're at 1.5%. And if you go back through that tried and true method, they go, well, they're a big company and they can scale how they sell houses. So they're just able to do it less expensively than you guys, right? I respect that you've got all your brokerage and those other things to take care of, but I mean, just dollars are dollars, and Redfin could do it just as well as you can. And I think we're going to go with Redfin. Right?
That's a very savvy seller, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, the responses are not as sophisticated as you just described. I think you got to recognize when you're dealing with a super savvy person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I go back to is story. And a lot of times, what you go back to. So first on objection handling technique is you just narrow it down. Let's just find out what their biggest objection is. I'm sure you've heard this before. Just kind of go over the process. Is that just make sure that's their last objection, right? So I'd say okay, and I'll write it down. So obviously price is important. I'll write it down, and what you're gonna what you're paying commission is very important to you. So I'll write that down. What else do you think that you would, other reasons why you would pick Redfin over using Keller Williams and my team? Well, that's it. That's the last
John,
one.
Yeah, I'll play with you. John, that's the last one. Those are the only 2 things I'm worried about.
Right. So then I'll okay, let's talk about that. Right. And then the way I'll break that down is into dollars for them instead of percentages. Right. Because we're talking about right now, okay, we're talking about the difference of $6,000. because in this case, it was a difference. Like the commission would have been either 12,000 or 6,000 on the listing side, right? So, you know,
We're talking
so
3% versus 1.5%, right?
yeah.
Okay.
So 3 versus 1.5. So the difference for those folks was going to be $6,000 because they've already conceded that they have to pay the other side 3%, right?
Yep.
Because you make sure that in your presentation that's very important that they're paying the other side 3%, right? Say that, you know, even and if sometimes it objects, well, can we pay them less? Say, well, you don't want to limit the amount of people that come see your house, right? We want to make sure that we're doing that. So in any case, let's talk about this $6,000 and what we'll do. I don't want to cost you $6,000, and I could certainly understand why you'd want to save $6,000, right? So right, the first step is just make sure that you understand and you're actually in agreement with them of why they're objecting, right? You're not starting an argument, right? So yes, I would like to save $6,000 too. Yeah, that's clearly an important thing, right? And then I shift it and I go right to this tried and true script. I don't want to cost you $6,000 more. I want to make you that $6,000 back plus some more, right? And let me tell you.
Yeah. Tell me more about that, John.
Yeah, let me tell you the story about what the difference is, what I've seen. Redfin's a great company and they sell a lot of houses. But I could tell you, I had a previous customer that was going to go with Redfin for that 1.5%. And what happened in that situation was they were listed their house at $400,000. And we listed it kind of high. It wasn't way past the market, but we were pushing the market on that $400,000. And it sat for about a week, which seems about an eternity right now when a house sits for about a week. And they got a cash offer for $375, right? At the time, my client did not want to take that offer, so we didn't even. So basically, our response to that offer was like, just no. We didn't even try to come up halfway in between. We just said no, thank you, and there was no counter, and we just waited because we were only about a week into it from our offers. Well, the next day, that my client in that case had a change of heart, and they said, "Can you go back to that 375? Something's changed. We've got to get this house sold right away," right? I went back to that 375 and I negotiated them to come up to 390. And we talked back and forth for a little bit and they wrote an offer for 390 and we sold the house for 390. Now, I think what might have happened if you had that client had used Redfin and called Redfin, they would have said, "Hey, we accept that offer for 375. There would have been somebody at Redfin who wasn't the original listing agent now handling the transaction, because part of how they scale up is that they hand off the pieces of the transaction to other people. Now we are walking with you through the whole process. I'm going to walk with you through this whole process and be with you the whole way. So when that my client would have if they were using Redfin had gone back and said 375, they would have gotten 375 for the house. They would have been happy about it. And they would have not known any better that they just left money on the table, right? And I think that's probably what happens a lot, and why Redfin still gets great reviews and say they sold our house is because people just don't know what they're missing by using a full service agent, right?
Okay,
Because go ahead.
I was going to say there's two things that I noticed in how you responded to that. The first is you used some of their words, right? So we call that keyword tracking, right? Where they used a phrase that was scale up. Again, that's a pretty sophisticated seller you're in front of, right? If they're like analyzing your business model versus somebody else's business model, you got to take it up a notch, right? That's a savvy seller, right? They probably have some type of sales experience, right? You use their words, and I really like that, and I think that was really powerful. The other thing is stories, right? Obviously, no mention of names. Everything should be confidential. You don't want to tell somebody personal details of a transaction because they'll say, "Oh, well, next time he'll be telling my story," right? And I also like what you said. Although you were a little vague about it, probably intentionally, which is when you get passed off, right, to the next, to the clerk, they don't understand the values as much. They may not understand negotiation techniques as much. So what do you think is going to happen in that situation, right? I mean, I'm going to say something that I probably shouldn't say, but, and I don't mean any offense to this. A lot of the people that work at Redfin for $35,000 a year are working there because they couldn't make it work by themselves or on a team, right? So they went from being an entrepreneur to accepting a job. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I don't know if this is the right time or if we need to have John back on, but I would love to hear how he negotiates. I would love to hear how, because I think that's something we haven't talked about in PC, is how to negotiate with the other agent, at least not since I've been here. So I'd love to hear some of that.
All right, teach us some stuff, John.
So you start when I negotiate back with the other agent, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's always a phone conversation. I don't ever negotiate via text or email. When it comes down to text or email, it's just like, this is what we just agreed on, right? Like, that's it, right? So the actual negotiation always happens over a conversation. And
guys, let that sink in for a second.
Yeah.
Text is for like, see you at 2.
Yeah.
Or I got your email. It is not for delivering. It's not for negotiation. It's definitely not for sharing, possibly negative news.
Absolutely. Yeah. I see a lot of times when people want to negotiate on a listing that I have, they'll send me an offer, and then I might call them back and have a conversation, and they say, let me think about it. Let me call my client. And then they'll text me back, my client said this. And I'm like, that's a bad way to go about it. Right. Because now I've got what they just gave me was a number and a few minutes to think about it and how I'm gonna counteract. Right. They gave me some time to formulate my strategy ahead of time versus you have to think on the fly when you're talking one-on-one with somebody.
That's very similar to what I've done. What I've taught you guys in the past is maybe not answer your phone immediately. Let them say whatever they're going to say, right? That way you can hear the way their tone, you can hear whether they're frustrated or happy, you can hear maybe how much trouble they're having navigating the deal with their client, and you get as much time as you need to formulate your response, right? If you pick up the phone, you're kind of put on the spot a little bit. Now, before you say, I'm not suggesting not answering your phone all the time. I'm suggesting letting it go every once in a while and then call them back in 5 minutes. Nothing's going to change in 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you the strategy on the buy side for negotiating. And the strategy is this. Now, right now, we're really not negotiating. That what's happening right now. Sometimes we have to offer more than list price, right? So if let's talk about a house that's been on the market for 2 weeks and they've already taken a price drop. These are the ones we can negotiate with, right? The ones that just came on the market yesterday, you're probably going to have to go full or higher price. But let's in this scenario, we're negotiating with somebody. The house has been on the market for a couple of weeks. It needs a little bit of work, little TLC, and they've already taken a price drop, right? Generally, what will come in is about double the price than where our basically our bottom line where we want to hit. So if it's a $400,000 house and my client says, I really want to try to get that place for $390, we'll offer $380, right? Magically, what happens a lot of times, let me tell you this is a negotiation tactic, is the seller will come back at half the difference. And they'll land right on the number where your client wants to be. And that's the end of the negotiation, because your client's happy, they've got a deal. Then the seller's happy because it's a win-win, because they felt like, hey, we just counted one time, gave you our number. And that will happen about, I would say, 75 to 80% of the time. So always make your initial offer, just fine. So, and this is also predicated on the fact that your buyer, your client is going to be honest with you. So,
Right. It's
so
also predicated on the fact there's not another offer that's being considered.
correct, correct. We're talking about the one that's been on the market 2 weeks, already taken a price drop, needs a little bit of work, right? So our strategy and what we train our agents to do is just always double the number that where your client really wanted to land. And that's the number. And then what'll happen most of the time, majority of the time, is that the seller will come back or back and forth anymore, right? Right. Okay. And I'll start this way. Hey, Bill, how you doing? This is John. We want to, we just submitted that offer for, Main Street. And I know you guys came back and rejected it right away, but is there a bottom line number you think that I can push my clients to that that your seller might go to? I want to try
Such
to
a
get
good question.
Yeah. And I'll just ask, kindly ask Bill, what's your bottom line? Right. I'm saying in a way that what I just asked him was like, hey, I want to get this done with you, Bill. I'm going to push my client to your bottom line number. Right.
Mhm.
Tell me your bottom line number. So I just asked Bill what his bottom line number is.
Yeah, gosh, I think if you can get me like 390 and close at the end of the month, I think we'll be good.
Okay. All right. You know what, Bill? Let me see what I can do. Let me give you a quick call back. And my client is on the other line.
Yeah, these guys are tough.
Yeah.
It's hard to get them even to where I got them. Let's see if I
Right.
can get another few thousand.
I'll do my best to try to push him up that other 10, Bill. Thanks for let's try to get this done. All right, man. Let's do this. Right. So it's not adversarial. It's just you're trying to help, you're both trying to work for the same means. He's trying to sell his house and I'm trying to buy it. So we're trying to get this done. And magically it's at 390. It's the number that I wanted in the first place.
Right. Let me say something else that I maybe shouldn't say is you got to remember that the average real estate agent in Atlanta, the average sells about between 2 and 3 houses a year. Mm-hmm. And that typically means that the agent really wants a commission check. Let's just be frank, right? And sometimes their desire for a commission check exceeds their desire to protect their client, right? And many agents are not, either trained or experienced or practicing and building their skill and all that. So oftentimes your negotiation partner is not as skilled as you and perhaps more desperate than you for a closing. So recognize that and then act accordingly, because the only thing you're being paid to do is protect your client and help them save money or net the most money if they're on the seller side. Yeah.
And I'll use this phrase a lot when I talk to another agent on negotiation. Let's see if we can push pull and get this deal done. Right. Because I'm telling them. So basically just kind of like what I'm telling Bill is on the other side is like, if you push, I'll pull or vice versa. And we'll get these two together. Right. Ultimately, our job is to get this deal done. Right, Bill? Yes. So let's do some push pull. And that negotiation happens when you have to negotiate for repairs or on the appraisal, whatever it is. I'll always use that phrase. Let's push pull. Right. I'm basically I want to make you my partner on the other side of the table. You're my partner in trying to get this done. You're not my adversary. And every time I have an agent that comes up that wants to in the first conversation, and don't ever do this because this is the most annoying call I get, was like, we're offering $40,000 less for that house. And here's all the reasons why we don't like it. And it just annoys me. It's like, we hate the house because it needs a new roof. And I'm like, well, why are you offering anything on it if you hate the house so much? So, yeah.
John, I have a question.
Yeah.
So for this scenario that you're speaking of, I just want to make sure that I'm processing it right. If you put an offer out there, one, the home has to kind of be on the market for maybe, you said about give or take a week. And if they reject it, because, we're in a world of highest and best to where sometimes other agents don't even entertain your somewhat good offer. But the only way that we can use this scenario is if the house has been on the market for at least a week.
I would say you've seen at least one price drop in it, and it's been out there, right? And then so basically, Ebony, what's going to happen is this is going to be this is where we got to get back to practice, because maybe a year from now, maybe a year and a half from now, this will be normally back to where we get back to negotiations, right? This is where we were 2 years ago. This is a normal part of the process, was having to know how to negotiate a price. But right now we're in an abnormal kind of little market right now. So you just have to have different strategies to get the house. I would just, if you have a seller that wants to make a low ball offer on a house that they just saw, that just came on the market like yesterday, that's where you have, it's a whole another scenario. You have to have conversations and educate your buyer.
Can we walk?
I meant a buyer. Yeah.
Can we walk through that scenario? So first, how would you deal with your buyer in setting appropriate expectations? And then how would you deal with the other agent so that your buyer's offer can ultimately stand out?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So with your buyers, you have to educate them with the facts. It's not your opinion. So I always, my best practice and my agent's best practice is like, this is how I feel about it, is never comes out of our mouth. And if it does, and if it accidentally comes back out of your mouth, kind of roll back. It's not about how you feel. It's about what the facts of what are going on in the market, and use chart masters. I love chart masters. Find the charts that you know how to explain. There are, like, when you get chart masters, and there's like 75 charts in there. And the way I use chart masters, I go through the chart and I go, well, I don't know how to explain this one. I just throw it in the garbage. Right. And I get to the ones I know how to explain. Right. And because if I can speak clearly on the chart and what's in there and the information in there, I know that I can relay that information to my buyer. So there is a one of those charts and chart masters. I wish I had it handy right now, but I don't. And there's a chart in there. It has all the price points going down on the side, and then on going across on this axis, it has it tells you days, days on market, and how many days it's been, average days on market, and average price point sold, right? And I'll point to that. I'll say we're shopping in the $600,000 range. The average days on market right now for $600,000 is 8 days, and the list average sales to list price is 105%. Right? So what's happening right now in the price point that you're looking at, and you could drill that down to the FMLS area, and I like using those charts. So if I'm working with a client in Milton, I'll drill down to FMLS area Milton, and I'll show them the chart just for that. If I'm working with somebody in Roswell, find that. And that chart will tell you sales to list price and how many days on market. And I'll show them, hey, I just want to let you know what's happening in the market right now in Milton. Right now, everything in Milton in this price range is selling about 105% sales to list price. Right. When we come across a great house, we're probably going to have to add about 5% to our offer in order to get the house based on these numbers. Right. And I say based on these numbers, it's not my opinion. This is what's happening out there. So
I love the slide also that has the percentage of homes in that area or in that price range that are selling at list price or beyond list price.
Yeah. Right.
So I love the based on this information here.
Yeah,
based on
not on my opinion. Yeah. So this is based on the facts. So use that chart. Now, if they come back to you, and I'm working with a client right now, their price range is up to 850. And he looked in my eyes on the first day when he said, what would you offer for this house? I said, he just flat out asked me, and I told him what we would offer the house. And he almost punched me in the face. He was like, why would you offer, 875? The house is 850. And he says, I've never paid full price for anything in my life. So that was his comeback. And I showed him the information. I showed him the charts. He still insisted on not paying full price. And I said, that's great. And again, here's objection handling. I totally understand that. I don't like paying full price for anything myself. You should have seen what I did to the car dealer when I just bought my new car. I just put that guy through the ringer for a week over buying that car.
Another story.
So this is my story about how I'm not paying full price either. Here's our strategy. Here's what we're going to do. So I came up with a solution for him. I'm going to send you some homes that have been on the market for more than a week, that might have taken a price drop, that need a little TLC. No, we're not going to buy a clunker that needs a brand new roof or something like that, but they just need a little hug. Let's go look at those properties. And I think we can find a bargain there, right?
Well, I don't want an ugly one. I want this one.
Well, it's exactly what his wife said. Let's
And then what
offer
happens?
I like this house. Let's offer $875 for it.
That's what she said.
That's what the wife said.
Yeah.
I'm going with John's opinion on it. Let's offer $875. So
Well,
in any case, yes. So that's so basically you've given them I did not. So I think I've seen this, and basically I'll tell you in my sales career, I started out with I need to argue and beat this guy down and show him that why he's wrong, right? That's kind of a lot of that. When I started out as a young salesman years ago, I would try to beat my customers down and come out a victory. I just beat them, and that's just not the way to do it, right? The way to do it is just commiserate with them and understand where they're coming from, and just coming from a different strategy to try to help them. And that's, I think, in this case, Bill, he did feel like I was looking out for his best interest, and I understood that he didn't want to pay full price, and he looked at it. Okay, I like that strategy, but his wife wasn't on board with that strategy. She wanted a move-in ready house.
right.
So, yeah.
So how do you address the seller? So you've got a buyer that is kind of on board from a financial perspective. How do you, knowing that you have a bunch of other buyer offers to compete with, how do you handle your dialogue and your exchange with the seller's agent?
So right now, our strategy is to do something called we're gonna offer an above list offer, but we're gonna give you appraisal protection. And what way we're doing that is, for example, I've got a client right now that's about to make an offer, and he's looking at his price range is about up to 300,000. And our strategy, and he's on board with this because I told him the strategy. What we're going to do is we're going to look for stuff that's a little bit slightly below 300,000, and then we'll offer up to $300,000, and we're going to pay the cash difference. And what you have to do in this case, basically, when you give this appraisal protection, is you have to have the lender and your buyer on board to say, if the house does not appraise, can you come up with a difference in cash? So your down payment plus the cash would be the difference. And this is a great thing to have a great lender like Kathy in the office or whoever you work with as a lender to have explain to your client that, okay, here, what the strategy might look like for them financially, that, okay, instead of putting 10% down, let's put 5% down, let's reserve some cash. Basically, let your client work with your lender. Let your lender to have this conversation with your client over numbers. We're the house expert. We're not necessarily the numbers expert. Lean on your vendor to have this conversation. So in this scenario, just to make it simple, what we're going to do is the house is listed at 290. We're going to offer 305 for it, right? But the comps show that it's only going to sell for 290. Right. What I'm going to tell the other agent, the other side, is like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make you this offer. And even though we're not a cash buyer, right? Because if we're a cash buyer, this shouldn't make any difference, but we're not a cash buyer. I'm going to tell you right now that we'll pay up to 15th ahead of time. I'm going to let you know, I'm going to write this guarantee as a special step into the offer. I'm going to pay my client's going to pay $15,000, up to $15,000 above appraised value in cash. We're guaranteeing that we're going to do that if the appraisal comes back lower. And I'm putting a cap on it saying 15. So if it comes up, if it appraises at 380, I don't have to cover that other 10. I'm only covering it from where my client feels comfortable. And you'll find that whatever that number is through the client working with the lender. The lender says, you know what? Here's the scenarios. If he offers he's got extra 25,000 in reserve that he can use. So you can go as high as 25,000 above list on a 375. And then you massage the numbers in there. So really work with the lender on this, because you don't want to make those promises with your buyer and your buyer says, that's great. And all of a sudden the lender goes, you can't do that. Right. He doesn't have the cash to do that.
What if they don't have the cash for what you're explaining?
Yeah. So I would say then your best scenario is knock. And we've used Knock a couple of times this year, and they're great. They make your buyer a cash buyer. If they're a first-time home buyer, there's another company out there called Ribbon that we've used.
Wait, Knock makes the, I thought you got your loan through Knock to be the buyer. Is that right?
Knock will buy the house for you cash. Right.
Oh, and then you
So-
take the loan with Knock to,
Right.
okay, gotcha.
Right. So
Okay.
Knock makes you a cash buyer. Ribbon makes you a cash buyer. So look into Ribbon. So if your client doesn't own a home and they're a first-time home buyer, look into Ribbon. And there's another company called Homeward. So Homeward and Ribbon are, if you're a first-time home buyer, they'll make you a cash buyer. Right. Basically, they're buying the house and then selling it back to your person. And there's a fee involved, but it might be less than this whole thing with the appraisal gap, right? So look into those companies, and instead of just us explaining how that all works, just call them and just say, how does this work? And those work. So we've used Homeward. We're about to do one with Ribbon right now. And the only reason why we're not using Homeward, because we liked Homeward, was that they're so backed up right now. They're like 2 weeks out. So you can't wait 2 weeks to make an offer right now. You've got to be quicker. So Ribbon's a little quicker. Knock is for your current home buyer that needs to become a cash buyer. So the cash is king right now. What's winning right now are cash deals. So those companies will make your buyer and seller, your buyers, cash buyers. Now, if they don't qualify for those programs, you're going to have to use this appraisal gap scenario where you're going to cover the appraisal. That's our strategy for our guys to buy houses right now.
All right, let me give you the other scenario, which is I don't have the cash for the appraisal contingency or the appraisal gap. And for one reason or another, I don't qualify for one of those programs. So
Right.
the first step is, if you don't know what programs we're talking about, all of them have certification processes and they're all free. So if you don't understand the programs, or you don't understand the details, that is step one. Let's get you the education so that you can bring these resources to your people. What if they don't qualify for any of that stuff, and let's say they've lost out on a couple of homes because maybe they've got a low down payment, or they don't have a ton of cash, or maybe they can't afford the closing cost. How do you address that?
Yeah, what I'm doing for them is when we go and do excuse me, oh sorry, when we do a property search for them, we're basically only sending them properties that have been on the market for more than a week. And you could search there, you could put that search criteria in FMLS or actually you could just pull the houses in the area and just kind of look at days on market. So if it's 5, 6, or 7 days on the market, I will those are the houses I'm sending. And before I set the appointment, I'll text the agent and say, hey, is this house still available? Do you have any current offers? Yes, we have offers, and we'll just skip the house. Right. I think part of what you don't want to do is fatigue your buyers. Right. And because obviously fatigue yourself too by showing them too many houses. But I've had this happen where I had a couple of buyers this year that just got fatigued. You know what? We're just going to wait. I mean, and I would of course give them a script about waiting is going to cost them, but they're like, oh, we don't care. It's just too emotional.
What's the script for waiting?
So the script for waiting is that what we see, right? It's not my opinion. So what we see.
Well, that's just another story, basically.
Yeah, it's just another story. And you start going through the facts about where the economy is heading, start talking about those numbers, start talking about how one of the big facts that I like to use, and use this one, please, is that the National Association of New Home Builders are stating they're 6 years behind on what they can build and catch up on inventory. 6 years, and that's a national number. So I mean, obviously we know that Georgia has tremendous growth, so that we've got to be at the top of the list or near it. What they're saying, all these builders like Lennar and all these big giant builders in the Providence Group, and all these guys around here, say they can keep building for the next 6 years and not worry about their houses not selling fast, right? Wow. And that's got to trickle down into the resale market.
Of course, and they're building kind of basically way on the outskirts of town, right?
Yeah.
Because any building, certainly inside the perimeter, at least north of the city, I mean that's $400,000 to $500,000 piece of land, and then you're going to build $1.5 million home on it.
I mean, Lennar is building that giant community up and coming. Was it Mountain Crest or Mountain View? I think it's called, right? There's 1,000 homes going in there. And I had a couple of clients that want to buy houses in there, and you have to be on a wait list to even present your offer. They're building 1,000 homes. So, and you put your name on a wait list to present an offer. Like, you don't even do that. So it's crazy. The market is going to be like this for a little while. So that is a fact I present to them. I present, go back to the beginning of Mega Camp this year, and Gary outlines, here's what's going on in the real estate market, here's what's going on in the economy, here's what's going on in the job market, and in all our scripts that we've written right now, all around Gary's facts in there, and that he presented, Jay Papasan presented in the beginning of Mega Camp, and everything that Gary has said, and I don't say Gary said this, but the facts are what the economy is going to be strong even through next year. And one of the here, you could use this one because I like this one. I use this one, right? People were waiting. I know 3 or 4 years ago, were waiting for the real estate market to tank and the economy to tank. And they were just saying, this has to be a bubble. This has to be a bubble. This has to be a bubble. And when is it going to burst? When is it going to burst? And COVID hits, and all it was is a little speed bump. Right. Yep. Like we were waiting for the thing that would cause the world to shut down and wreck the economy around the world. And the world did shut down, and the economy around the world did not get wrecked. It was a speed bump, and the economy is still moving in a strong direction. The housing market's still moving in a strong direction. And what we're seeing, and then the other fact that I'll give you another one, is that right now, there's 1.9 million people that are in forbearance around the nation. They know the number of them people around right now. So, what we're looking at right now is that back in 2008. So go talk about 2008 when the housing, because everybody kind of has 2008 in mind about the housing crisis, right? Back in 2008, when we had all those people that were behind on mortgages, they were underwater when they sold their home. In other words, they didn't have the equity when they sold those homes, and they were selling them for less than they owed in their mortgages. Right now, even if all those 1.9 million people hit the market, most of them are not underwater. Most of them have equity.
Any of them are probably.
Houses. What's that?
I bet there's probably almost none of them are underwater.
Correct, right? So even if they were forced to sell their house because they're behind, the mortgage company say, okay, you got to pay up. It's time. And every one of those houses hit the market, they're not hitting the market at a low price. They're going to hit the market at market prices, right? Back in 2008, when those 1.9 million houses hit the market all at once, there was already high inventory. They were underwater. They had to sell them fast, and they put them below value market. And that's what brought the values down. Right now, if those 1.9 million houses across the nation hit the market, they're only going to put a little blip and add to the amount of inventory that's out there right now, because we're 6 months behind on inventory to get us to a balanced market, right? Another good one you could use, like what that means is right now we have a month of supply of inventory. That means if every house we had on the market right now sold, it would take about a month for us to go out on a zero. Now, obviously, more houses are coming on the market. But they're still only coming on at the rate of, if everything sold, we'd have a month of supply. A balanced market is 6 months. So if it took 6 months for everything to sell. So you can see that there's a huge gap. If those 1.9 million houses hit the market, they probably wouldn't raise it up for us to maybe 2 or 3 months supply. We still would not be in a balanced market. So now is a great time to sell your house, right? And then you flip that, talk about now is a great time to buy a house, because interest rates are so stinking low. When I bought my first house, so I telling a story about when I bought my first house, I paid 9% interest rate, right? So talk about those stories about now is still a great time to buy a house, right?
So what is the? I want to be respectful of your time. I got 2 questions left. What is the most common objection that you hear in today's market? But by the way, before we go into that, I hope you guys are seeing and noticing how much of the discussions with real estate with your prospects are market-based and fact-based and economy-based, right? It's all stats, right? So you probably spend a considerable amount of time making sure that you're up to date on all that stuff. So hopefully you guys can incorporate that into your calendar to make sure that you are, you've got the similar knowledge. So John, what is the most common objection that you're hearing right now, and how do you deal with it?
Yeah, if I sell my house, where am I going to move? I know I could sell my house for a fortune right now, and everything's selling my neighborhood so fast, and it's going to sell so fast that I'm afraid I'm going to be homeless. Right.
That's exactly what I was thinking, John. What do you say about that?
Yeah. Well, we have strategies. We have six unique ways we can help you sell your home where we're not going to make you homeless. Can I stop by on Tuesday or Thursday and visit with you and your wife or you and your husband, and we can talk about those strategies.
Love that. Go straight for the appointment. Okay. And once we're there, what are those 6 strategies?
Yeah. So obviously what I do is I do my listing presentation, and what's in my listing presentation, I just ask them a lot of questions about what their needs are, what they want to do. And we talk about, hey, we're doing this as a consultation. So on the front of my listing presentation, it says Seller's Guide to Selling a Home. It doesn't say listing presentation on it. It says Seller Guide to Selling a Home. And I'm there with them, and I'm not telling, hey, I'm coming over to do a listing presentation, and my objection is what I want to do here is get you to sign a listing rate with me. I'm coming over there in that capacity for these folks who've given me that objection as a consultant to talk about their situation and possible scenarios on how to not make them homeless, right? And in the conversation, I just uncover with them about how strong their desire is to move, and really trying to uncover their big why they want to move. And I just lean into that desire and the why, and we start talking about possibilities.
Can you just list those possibilities real quickly?
Yeah. So one thing we could help you do is I can get you an all cash sale for your house, and we can go find a house and make an offer on it before you even have to move out of this house. That's one scenario, right? And then if I'm there and I notice the house is just like, this house is going to be a hot commodity on the market, I could tell you another thing we can do is we can go out, start house shopping and get your house on the market simultaneously. And what we'll do is something called a post-occupancy agreement. In other words, we can shop and look at the same time, and we can get you to stay in your house until you close on the next one. Or the last one, quite frankly, is we could put your house on the market and we could start searching. And if you get offers that are like for $1 million and you have a $500,000 house and you don't want to move, you don't have to take the offer. You don't have to. I'm not going to. So when you list your house with me and you come down to it a week into this thing and you say, we're not moving, that's it. That's fine. You're fine. Nobody's going to force you to put your name on that piece of paper and sell your house. Obviously, you don't want that to happen, but you're going to give them that out, right? And I think people don't realize that I think they think if you put a sign in the yard and you get it on MLS, that if somebody writes an offer for them, they're legally obligated to now move, right? So just let them know that that's not the case, right? Obviously, you're going to work your butt off to go find them the house that they need so that you can simultaneously sell the house, but you just want to release the fear of what's out there. Yeah.
All right. Final question. Thank you very, very much so far. There's this thing called Bold coming up.
Ah.
What's the deal with Bold, and why should all of these people commit to it being involved in Bold?
Yeah, I've got my Bold trophies in the other room. I've been in real estate for 6 years, and I've taken Bold 5 times, and I've been in that Bold room with Bill a couple of times too. I at least once a year. There was the year that I skipped it was COVID year. I didn't do the Bold online. Which I regret now. I should have done it, but every year, at least once a year, I sit through Bold, and let me tell you why I do it multiple times. Every year, I learn more and more about who I am as a real estate agent, around the business. So I take what I learn in Bold it speaks to me differently every year. So every year I pull something new out of it, because it's talking a different, even though they're delivering the same message to all of us in the room or all of us on the Zoom call. And I think we're coming back live now, which is exciting.
Yeah.
I did do Bold over the summer on Zoom, which was great. Every year I pull something new out of it, because it's speaking to me from a different angle, because I'm coming at it from a different perspective. So I would say Bold needs to be on your calendar at least once a year. Mega camp or family reunion has to go on your calendar once a year. I mean, these are the things that I feel have propelled me to where I am 6 years later, is because I took advantage of all these things that are out there. And it's such a small investment, Bold. I mean, compared to what I get out of it every year, it's just tremendous. Yeah.
Well, let's pretend you have like a billboard, okay, and you get to design what the billboard looks like, and the billboard's going to tell the real estate agent, primarily the people who are here or will watch this later, what piece of advice would you put on that billboard for agents?
Lead generate every day. Yeah, write your notes, make your phone calls. It just comes down to very simply just this is what we do every day.
You've never been injured making calls, right?
What's that?
You've never been injured or anything making calls,
No,
right?
no. And like I said, I like to call the people that I know. So most of the times they don't curse me out. I do have leads that call me, and the worst injuries I've ever occurred in this business might have come from a client that I've been working with already, but the initial phone calls are not injurious. So
yeah, my worst injuries are doing paperwork when I shouldn't have done it, because I'll make a mistake and somebody else should be doing that instead of me, because they're better at it.
Yeah, and I want to give you this one more, because this was so impactful to me. One of the I could tell you the single most impactful moment of my life in real estate happened in Bold. It really did. And this is not a setup for Bill, and I might have even told.
So we didn't even talk about this. I've totally put him on the spot.
I mean, I might have even told you the story if Bill had not even asked me about Bold. And we don't get any money. I mean, we don't get any like a commission for getting you guys going to Bold. Trust me. But it was I was in the North Atlanta office, and that's where I started as an agent. Now we're here in lovely Roswell Rocks, which I'm super pumped to be part of. And it was basically, that's where I started. But the Bold class was being taught here in this office in Roswell. Bill, I think you might have been there. I don't remember.
David Long?
It was 6 years ago. David Long.
Yep.
Okay, so Bill was in the room, right? So our Bold coach came in, and he is a big, imposing character with a very deep voice. And the way he walked into the room, he slyly started walking in the room and started circling around us. And he said, "Real estate is hard, isn't it?" And we were all going, "Yeah." Because it's a tough business, isn't it? Yeah. You have to grind it out every day. Yeah. And we're all going, and he's patting people on the back as they go by. It's like as if we were at war, right? And he's giving us the speech before we had to go to battle. And then he comes up to the front of the room, and he puts his hands on his knees, and he looks in our eyes, and he goes, "No, it's not." He said, "You have to make phone calls every day in an air-conditioned room. Boo-hoo." And it really did change my life to where, like, oh yeah, this is not hard. I have to make phone calls. I have to go talk to people. I have to like go to events. It's just not hard. And obviously in comparison to where my father and my grandfather, the hard work that they put in all their lives as laborers. I come from humble beginnings. And they worked there. My dad would come home exhausted every night at 7 o'clock, have his dinner, and just sleep, because he was so exhausted from the hard work he did every day. And my dad's been gone for a few years now, but he would hardly say that I work. He would say, "You don't work hard, son." So he would, and I wouldn't pretend to tell him that I work hard every day, right?
And you don't have the burden of having paid $500,000 or over $1 million for a franchise. You paid about $600 for your real estate franchise.
That's it, right? And so here I am, and so the hard part is just in your mind. It's not physical. It's just overcoming that thing that tells you, I don't want to wake up every day and make phone calls. if you've got that, hopefully a lot of people in this you're here, you're the few people that are here, you're unique, you're different. There's 390 agents in this office, and there's a few of us on this call, so you're the unique ones. So take this and be the unique ones, because I think out of all those agents that started with me 6 years ago at North Atlanta, there's maybe a handful of us left, right? Be part of that handful that's left. Be the unique ones that lead generate every day. And like Michelle and I and Bill and Candace, we wrote the notes every day, and we did the things. We just followed the script, that you have to do. Be the unique, different ones. That's all I have to close with.
Thank you, John. Everyone want to invite John back at some point soon?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
John,
It's been great.
very
Thank you so much.
grateful
Great.
for your time today.
Yeah, I'd love to come back.
My hope is
helping.
that you get a lot of handwritten notes thanking thanking them for being here today, or thanking you for being here today. So thank you very much for your time and your wisdom. And don't forget, guys, Michelle, what time is your Millionaire Real Estate Agent Book Club today?
We start at 10. I'm just coming from a closing. So we start at 10. And if you get there before me, just start reading the book, finish work. Because I know I bet that most of us didn't get all the way to the end like we said we would. So just start reading the book. I'm going to bring donuts, and I'll see you soon.
Beautiful. And then Andy is teaching in person today the
Can't wait.
tools to build a millionaire real estate agent team. That is from 1 to 2:30. Even if you're not there yet, the wisdom that you'll get from Andy is priceless. So I'm going to encourage you guys to be in the room.
Can I
Bill?
say that? Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
Candace, go first.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, there's three nuggets that we got from, a ton of nuggets that we got from John this morning, but one, he talked about strategy over and over and over again. So being strategic is part of being a business owner. It's not reactive. It's thinking through something and coming up with a strategy. And then the other thing I wanted to say is, there's a tendency to wait until you have a buyer to get knock or homeward or ribbon certified. And then it's like scrambling. So go ahead and get certified now. And then the other thing that I thought was just an incredible pro tip is go listen to Gary at Mega Camp and develop your scripts around that. Powerful, powerful.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I was going to say something that I've totally forgotten now. That's okay.
You're younger.
Well, she'll be in the room at 10 o'clock. So if you guys have,
Yeah, maybe
you'll
I'll
probably
remember
remember by then. Thank you everyone for your time. Can't wait to see you a little later. Have a great weekend.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Take care.